For the past 2 weeks, I've had the pleasure of being the first rider ambassador for the TorqDek, and today I'm going to tell you all about it. So what is it? The TorqDek is a device that allows you to access all the mechanics of snowboarding without bindings. This video might come as a shock to those of you who know me as a snow skater. Well, this thing is fundamentally different, and I'm going to explain how. Before we get into it, this device was invented and patented by a company out of Toronto, Canada, called Shink Inc. I had the pleasure of being one of the first to try it, along with the owner and a couple other testers in Sunshine Village earlier this year. More on that later. First, let's answer what makes this device so unique. The TorqDek solves a fundamental problem that all other bindingless snowboard alternatives fail to address. It allows the rider to control torsional flex intuitively. The handlebar system, which we can call the control arm, is mounted to the center of the board with this torsion bar. So if you lean the control arm over to one side, it tilts the board over in that same direction. But that tilting motion is actually imposed at the position of this central mount, the clevis. By leaving the board free to twist outside of this central mount, it allows the rider to control the twist of the board separately from the overall edge angle. This allows riders to perform side slips, controlled skidded turns, and even pirouettes. To perform a side slip, you pull the handle towards the slope and use foot pressure to adjust the edge angle under each foot, just like you would side slipping a snowboard. The only difference is that the force keeping the downhill edge off the snow doesn't come from leaning back against bindings. Instead, that force comes from the control arm. The gas pedaling technique is the same as a snowboard. Once you're in a side slip and you want to point downhill again, you simply press the toe down on that side of the board. It's a very intuitive way to control torsional flex. I was doing skidded turns within 5 runs, and I could perform pirouettes on the first attempt. If you followed me for a long time, you know that I'm no beginner to riding without bindings. The added control over torsion creates a totally unique experience. With the TorqDek, I can make quick adjustments on crowded slopes, so I'm never worried about whether I can initiate a skidded turn without putting a hand down for drag. It lets me ride in a more comfortable, upright position. Now, about this control arm. You might be thinking with this design, it looks like some kind of scooter. Well, here's why I think it's fundamentally not like a scooter at all. First, the handlebar is not used for steering. All the steering comes from leaning it over on edge to engage the side cut and playing with foot pressure, just like a snowboard. Another key difference is that the handlebar is not rigidly attached to the board. It's free to hinge back towards the rider, which prevents you from leaning back against it like a crutch. It also conveniently folds flat for carrying and storage. It can hinge forwards too. That's the purpose of this whole mechanism at the base of the control arm. If you lose your balance and lean too far forward, the entire control arm buckles to release you. It's a really clever solution for what could have been the most dangerous aspect of riding. This mechanism is calibrated to be strong enough for getting on and off the chairlift, but not so strong that it would injure you in a crash. The handlebar itself is a circle shape instead of a T shape like you would see on bikes. It's also made of plastic, and this prevents you from getting hurt if you fall directly on it. Like, imagine how bad it would be to crash onto the end of a metal tube. Another nice feature is this bulge in the center. I like to use it for reference when I'm switching hands for turns. When I ride it one-handed, I keep the bulge centered in my grip. Some riders prefer to keep their hand to the left of the bulge for one-handed riding. It's just a nice reference to know your hand position without looking down. My favorite aspect of the design is these traction blocks. The standing platform is made up of individual blocks that transmit the rider's inputs directly to the board. The separation allows the board to flex and twist unhindered, and they're tall enough to give you some leverage over the edge. When you're riding around, the forces are pretty evenly distributed between pressing into the standing platform and pushing against the handlebar. These wings on the side do a great job of communicating where the edge of each block is, so you don't end up hanging your feet way off the sides. Without those wings, you could easily drag your toes off the side and crash in a carved turn. It even has a couple spikes on the rear so that you know where the standing platform ends on the tail. These could come in different widths. Right now we're exploring a version with less aggressive wings. Advanced riders might opt for a more narrow standing platform or the less aggressive wings. They can drag at high edge angles in the soft snow, so it becomes a limiting factor for carving. Getting on and off the chairlift is easy. Once you push up to the line, you can leave both feet planted on the deck or just kind of stand over it. The chairlift scoops you and the handlebar rests in between your legs. These little protrusions on either side of the handlebar help make it easier to hold with your legs, so you can have your hands free for using a cell phone. It doesn't interfere with the lap bar, and it can rest easily on the footrests. I can only speak for Vail Resorts because I ride at Breckenridge and Keystone, but I've had no issues with chairlift access. I had a nice chat with the lift ops lead at Peak 8 here at Breck, and he explained all the rules to me. They used to define any kind of device with a handlebar as a scooter, and they were banned before any professionally built snow scoots hit the market. This guy explained to me that when the split steering snow scoots first came about, they had a big meeting that included higher ups. They changed the rules to 3 simple requirements. It must have steel edges, it must be leashed, and it must be professionally built. So as far as Vail Resorts is concerned, it's no problem. I haven't had a single lift operator give me any trouble. In fact, they ask if they can borrow it on their ride breaks. Definitely check with your local ski area, even if it's under the Vail Resorts umbrella, because your mileage may vary. So with all the mechanics explained, you might be thinking, well, I can do all that with a snowboard, so why would I ride this thing? Well, I think it's the most comfortable way to enjoy riding at a ski resort. For one, you never have to bend over to strap in or unstrap your bindings. This means no stopping at the bottom or the top of the chairlift. It's really nice for flat areas where you might get stuck on a traverse. You just step off and push it along with the handlebar. The stepping on and off really helps when you're first learning to do low-speed maneuvers too. When learning a falling leaf, you rarely fall all the way to the ground because you can just hop off as soon as you lose your balance. And you'll never be stuck waiting for your friends with your butt or your knees in the snow. One of the best aspects is it gives you the freedom to rotate your feet into whatever position you desire on the fly. I might use a more duck-footed stance for skidded turns, and then shift my feet into a posy-posy stance for carving on edge. So in a way, this device solves the whole duck foot versus posy stance debate that plagues snowboarding. Here it's like, don't even worry about it. Just hop on and see what feels right for you. When you're learning, it's normal to adopt a more neutral, wider stance. I'm still kind of in the learning phase, but I anticipate that as I get better, I'll be more comfortable carving with a narrow posy stance. The beauty is that I can always switch back to a wider, more duck foot stance when I need more control, like when performing a pirouette. So the less immediate answer to why you should ride without bindings is a bit more conceptual. I've thought about this for years. There's a certain pleasure to be gained from riding in a way that only uses pressure on the soles of your feet. In a word, it's grounding. It's the same reason that a good yoga session leaves you feeling more connected to your environment. I'm not talking about some like woo-woo pseudoscience where you get barefoot and connect to the electrical charge of the earth. That's better described as earthing. What I mean when I say grounding is any activity that balances your body with the environment through the soles of your feet. When you start lifting up on toe straps and pressing into the tops and sides of your boots with bindings, you lose some of that. Grounding exercises can leave you with the feeling that you are connected to something bigger than yourself. It's something you have to experience to really put your finger on it, but you kind of get what I'm saying. I got introduced to this device by the inventor through my connections with TorqDek snowboards. I feel so honored to have been one of the first testers and now the first rider ambassador for the TorqDek. For me, this thing solves all the problems of accessibility and control that a snow skate presents. The learning curve was so fast. It was really simple to dissect the mechanics. The only weird part is learning to pull the downhill edge up to your feet using the handlebar. Once you learn how that works, you can quickly progress from falling leaves to skidded turns and then carved turns. It took me about 5 runs to get comfortable connecting skidded and carved turns on it. I can't stress enough how intuitive it feels to control. It's not really like a scooter. It's a snowboard with a different way of maintaining your edge angle. I'm so excited to get more people riding it because I've never been able to get my friends on the snow skates. They're just too intimidating with their lack of torsional flex. But I really do think riding without bindings is something everyone in snowsports should experience. We're just making a few minor design tweaks and nailing the final details of the construction now. Once we have it all sorted, this will be available for pre-order. The cost is to be determined, but it's going to be a little more expensive than my snow skate setups. Stay tuned for more information on pricing. If you want to reach out to get placed on a mailing list for updates, we have a website live at shink.ca, and there's an email that's info@shink.ca. The Shink webpage doesn't have much on it yet, but it will soon be updated to a more complete website, so stay tuned for that as well. As always, if you want to support me directly, you can buy me a virtual coffee at the link in my description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Bud. Starting to get those real like snowboard mechanics back into play.
I was just saying, without bindings, you're carving it and doing it better than the girl with bindings.
Yeah, right on.